lovely people of the world. I am Joy Abara, and you're welcome to the Chat Podcast. This is episode 1, and oh boy, am I happy. This is a dream come true for me, guys. You might never really understand. So for a very long time, I've always wanted to do this. I remember growing up as a kid, I had a long list of professions that I wanted to become when I grow up. Now I feel like I'm much more older and life has happened to me. Life has knocked those lists, those professions one after the other. And for me, I feel like this amongst a few other careers has been the only thing that I have consistently set my mind to do. And to see this happening makes me really, really excited, guys. But anyways, moving away from that, on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the birthing of the Chat Podcast and why you might want to consider subscribing to the program. I know some of you guys have questions in your mind. What's she doing? What's she about to do? All of that. But if you stick around for a bit, I'll answer all of your questions. But before I do that, let's go on a very short break. And when we return, we shall be going in. Don't go anywhere.
Come from Zion, strong like iron. Story of a man who was young at 25, strong and determined and ready for the fight. In every darkness, him always sees the light. Show love to his brother, whether I'm black or white. Him walks so hard, so the future can be bright. And never gives up when things get so tight. But Babylon came trying to off his candlelight. Like a lion, him just a shout. See, they can't crucify at all. Hey, 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 hey. Do your best and start strong. Hey, 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 hey.
Welcome back to the Chat Podcast. That was Can't Crucify by Jethro Lion. Now, isn't that one powerful song? I feel like it tells my story in a way. And you know how people try to put you down when you're trying to do something? This song is a message to all of them haters. Like, regardless of what you say, regardless of whatever it is you have in your mind, I'm just gonna keep pushing and keep trying to be myself. So keep talking basically. So yeah, back to the program. On today's episode, I'm just gonna share my story basically of how I got here and what the chat is about. I hope it makes sense to you listening. So as I said earlier, I've always wanted to do this right from when I was a kid. And if I told you that the process of getting started has been easy, I'll be telling you a fantastic lie. Because guys, I've had to struggle literally every day to just see that this idea gets the light of a day. There's so much that goes into production, and I won't bore you with the technical details. But having looked at it all, I feel like the only thing that has kept me persistent in this field would be because I'm really passionate about this. So being on air, radio or TV, particularly radio, has always been at the core of my heart. And I guess I just didn't recognize it early enough. So I didn't study mass communication when I was in university, but somehow I've always had a genuine liking for that field. And in the bid to get a platform where I could acquaint myself with the industry, during holidays I'd always go out in search for internships just so that I could acquire some skills and buy some time. So getting a shot at a radio station wasn't quite the easiest thing for me. If anybody told you it was easy, brothers and sisters, they have lied to you. It's possible that you probably had it easy in your own time, but in my case, it was one of the hardest things I had to deal with. So only a few radio stations then were nice enough to let you in. I would never forget the day I went to one of those popular stations in Lagos. I won't mention the name, with hopes that I could get a job placement. I was very confident of myself. I got my lines together. My documents were all set. I was oozing with all the confidence in the world. And I got there and got the shock of my life, guys. So the last thing I remember was having to explain myself to the security guards about why I came. That's as far as I went because they never even allowed me in. Security guards bombarded me and literally drove me out of the building. And I left that station that day in tears. Now, this is after I had visited 2 other stations that day for the same purpose, and the reception was terribly poor, if there are even better words to describe that experience. But anyways, I wasn't even given a chance, and I felt like rejection was too hard to deal with. I was sad, literally. So after a couple of days, After all the dark days, guys, light decided to shine on my face. And I eventually got a call from one of the stations that I approached, and they offered me a job placement. After all the stress, right? So I was posted to the news department in this new place, which was really cool. What I really liked was the fact that I was, in the midst of other young people who also had the same ambition that I nurtured. My only problem or challenge was that it wasn't quite the department that I wanted to be in. So I was in news department, and what we basically were to do was to source for stories and sort of develop a news bulletins that was supposed to go out for broadcast. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in programs. I wanted to be in the same room with the presenters and just to have that, radio experience, but it never really came by. So what I tried to do at the time was to speak with a couple of people that I had made friends with, some of the guys who worked in the studio. I engaged one of them and, was talking to them about what I wanted to do and the fact that I feel like me being in the news department is just a waste of my talent, the waste of, my time, because I feel like I could be doing so much more. I disturbed one guy in particular so much that, he had no choice but to introduce me to one of the on-air personalities at a sister radio station. Now, when this guy was introducing me, he was very keen on the fact that he wanted me off his back. So, he literally just gave her no choice but to let me come in and work. And the lady heard me, talk, and I told her about why I wanted to do that and why I wanted to understudy her basically. And, she gave me a chance, she gave me a shot basically. And that's how I got my first on-air experience. Now, for the first time in my life, I got on air and the feeling was amazing. So after all of these years, after all of my sufferings and embarrassment and all of these things, it finally happened. Light set to shine on me. Yeah. So at the time, I was working with Double O of Echo FM. She's one of the on-air personalities. God bless her soul. So she not only gave me the opportunity to work with her, she made me anchor a 1-hour program by myself. Guys, so I was an intern. Now, last I checked, because you probably might not understand, interns are not allowed into the studio. As a matter of fact, what they do there, if they ever close to the studio, is probably go and buy food, like the errand guys and girls, literally. So for me, it was a big deal. It was a serious deal, and so I didn't take it for granted. And, I feel like up till now, that whole experience undeniably was one of my most memorable periods of my life. And, there are times when I relive that experience just to remind myself of the fact that someone actually saw potential in me enough to give me that opportunity. You might wonder why I'm telling you all of these stories and why it concerns you, but I know that there are a lot of people out there, a lot of young people like me out there who have been through even worse experiences in the bid to make something out of their life. The Chat Podcast is a place where all of these stories can be heard. I have seen a lot of young people who are change agents, taking giant strides. I've also seen a lot of young people who are swimming in confusion and in dire need of help. I believe we can all learn a thing or two from ourselves. And, for me, I feel like that's what this podcast does. That's what it's about. We're here to have interactions and communicate. So they say a problem shared is a problem half solved. And, I feel like that's the genesis or beginning of where our solution comes from. At the Chat Podcast, we talk about life, we talk about career, we talk about ambitions and our relationships, our finances, education, and issues that concern the average young adult, basically. And we do all of that by telling our stories. So if you have a story that you want to share about your life, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to have you come share your experience. So at this juncture, I want to say a very big thank you to you guys for your time and patience. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share with all your friends. The Chat Podcast is on Facebook, and so you can download and listen to the program via Facebook. We're also on SoundCloud and iTunes. Just check us out at the Chat Podcast. I personally am on Instagram, I'm on Facebook as well, and I'm on Twitter. My Instagram handle is @JoyAbara. My Twitter is @JoyAbara. Facebook, just search Joy Abara Akachi on Facebook. Yeah, so if you have anything you want to say, kindly leave your message there. I'm willing to respond to you. So until I come your way again next time, it's goodbye for now. Guys, keep being the best you can be.